A senior software engineer is reportedly out of a job at Google after a memo he wrote, we talked about it yesterday, criticizing the company's diversity efforts, went viral. In the more than 3,000-word memo, James Damore claimed biological causes are behind the gender gap in the technology industry. Damore, who worked at Google since 2013, says he's now exploring legal action against the company, accusing upper management of trying to shame him into silence. Damore telling the Wall Street Journal in an email that he, quote, was fired for perpetuating gender stereotypes, but I believe it was politically motivated. Meanwhile, in a note to employees, Google CEO Sundar Pichai said, quote, portions of the memo violate our code of conduct and cross the line by advancing harmful gender stereotypes in our workplace. Pichai cut short a family vacation to deal with this matter and says the company plans to hold an employee town hall to discuss the issue Thursday. So, John, everybody's talking about this one. Do you think that it was important for him to be let go?
Well,
because he was.
Because they had to do what they had to do. I mean, this is in an environment like this, you can't let these gender, episodes happen.
But he's threatening legal action now, saying that the company's trying to silence him.
Well, I think the big issue here is that Silicon Valley has a pervasive sexism problem that's permeated throughout, and the government's even looking into it. But the problem we have with this situation is he's talking about biology and saying women are inferior because of that for certain roles. And anytime you have that where people aren't feeling comfortable in their workplace because someone thinks they're biologically inferior to them, I think that's a big issue. So I think they made the right move here. They made swift action, and now it's going to have to play out through the courts.
Yeah, this is what cost Larry Summers his job when he was running Harvard University. He made comments like this, and if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, I guess.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, the precedent that has been set by all these other companies, I mean, and to not take action nowadays is kind of you can't really get away with that.
All right, so another company facing culture problem issues is Uber. Its chairman now says former CEO Travis Kalanick will not return, despite rumors suggesting Kalanick may be making a comeback. According to the Wall Street Journal, chairman and co-founder Garrett Camp telling staff in an email, quote, Travis is not returning as CEO. We are committed to hiring a new world-class CEO to lead Uber. So, Kevin, the question goes to you. Who does Uber need in this position to steer the ship in the right direction?
I mean, I've looked at other examples. Think about how Facebook turned around. Mark Zuckerberg got Sheryl Sandberg, right? She was great at running the company. And so I think they should look to a person that's not in Silicon Valley but has close ties. I've said Amy Hood up in Seattle with Microsoft. She's been a great leader. They've performed very well. They don't have culture issues. So I think they need to find a strong woman who's willing to take a leadership role to change the culture for this company, because they have a lot of issues here, and they've said it's been systemic throughout, because Travis had an entire he had all his buddies in there, and they've always protected each other, and then he had emails after emails, and he attacked journalists, and they grayballed other drivers, and I mean, they've had problem after problem, and the issue is they need to raise money right now, and the problem is they probably can't raise it at the valuation they're at their last round, so it's a down round, so it's a tough situation getting into.
Do you think they could change that culture, given that the person at the top of the chain who created the culture in the first place?
Yeah, it's top down, right? And we could see that if the person at the top doesn't tolerate it, like what's happening at Google, if Sundar Pichai says, we're not tolerating this, and you nip it right in the bud, I think it sets the precedent, right? You're setting the tone. If it starts at the top, then it'll trickle down.
So then you're wondering what the next chapter looks like for Uber.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that they've got so much competition, and they're so much in debt, they're wasting so much money. They need to go public. They need to go public soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, with people switching to places like Lyft or these other car companies that have been providing similar services, has Uber taken a hit because of that? I mean, are people not taking Uber because of these controversies? Yeah,
and I think one of the main things you need to look at is they're burning about $1 billion a quarter right now. I mean, they have a lot of overhead costs, and the issue that they have right now is they can't find a leader because no one wants that position. So you've seen Meg Whitman supposedly turn down the role, and she made a public statement about it. And so the issue is not only financing, but it's leadership. So they're battling on two fronts here, and Travis hasn't left. I mean, they just had the chairman he's supposedly been removed from the role, and here we are talking about it again, where you have their chairman saying he's not going to be CEO. Well, yeah, he wasn't supposed to be CEO. And so you've even had their venture capitalists that have funded him so far made sure he was removed.
And I wanted to go back to the Google story because, you know, you're left wondering if this is going to spark a bigger conversation, Caitlin, about free speech. And this person writing a memo caught our attention yesterday. We discussed it. And now to learn that this man, after writing this memo, has been fired by the company. Is that okay?
Well, I mean, with a private, or with a company like Google, I mean, not being in government, I don't know. I mean, I just think that you can't afford to, in this day and age, have these kinds of problems persist.
You know, it's one thing if it's a private company, it has its policies, they can hire and fire whoever they want. If you're talking about a college campus, for instance, where you're promoting free speech and it's all supposed to be about the free exchange of ideas, I think that you have to be held to a higher standard.
Right, the institution's different. They cited that he violated a lot of their code of conduct. So, I mean, so they actually referenced that, right? So he agreed to those terms, he broke those terms, and then they fired him under that. But what's interesting is they're based out of California, and California has its own labor laws. So we'll see how that plays out as well, because hiring and firing someone in California is completely different than just hiring and firing somebody.
All right, well,
meanwhile, we're talking about all these tech controversies, and the tech boom goes on and on. You wonder how long that can last.
Well, and they had to do something, considering, as we're reporting this morning, some women chose to stay home in the wake of that memo before they learned how Google was going to react to it. All right, thank you, everyone.